Good morning. Hello everyone. Happy Monday. Happy Moon Day. I hope you all had a great weekend. I'm excited for this week because Halloween is this weekend. It's Saturday, also known as Samhain, and that is a pagan holiday. It marks, I'm not exactly sure if it's the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter equinox. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head. But anyway, there are so many celebrations to be had. I'm going to celebrate by making a vegan pumpkin pie and maybe some pumpkin bread because that sounds pretty good. And I found a few recipes in a book I have on my shelf. So I'm excited for that. I hope you all are as well. Later on in the spread, I will be pulling an oracle card to help us harness and move through that full moon. It's actually a blue moon as well, energy this weekend, and to also hold on to the intention that we set at the beginning of this lunar cycle, which I think was to rest and meditate. So first off, I'll start by talking about Scorpio season, just because that's been on my mind lately, and I feel like once Scorpio season rolled in, I feel like I had the ability to really purge and see things that were keeping me stagnant in a different way and begin to do more productive shadow work. And I'm not sure if you've felt that way, but it started last week, I believe, in the middle of the week. And yeah, this is just a time for deep, deep shadow work. If you have Scorpio in your chart, it's definitely going to be an intense time. Just with this full moon to kick off Scorpio season, it's going to be a lot. I have a stellium in Scorpio, and I have a few friends with some Scorpio placements, and we get along well, and my brother is a Scorpio, and so I love this energy. And I think if you follow my personal page, you know that I definitely like to dive into shadow work and share about that. So if you're interested in me sharing more about my shadow work this Scorpio season, definitely follow that witch list because I'll definitely be sharing more about that. Let's start by talking about the beacon card this week, which is the 11th card in the major arcana, the Justice card. And I am using the LightSeers tarot deck by 𝐼𝐶 today, if you were wondering. And this is the illustration with this deck of the Justice card. And we'll start by talking about the number here, because the number 11 in numerology is a really powerful number. It's an angel number, so that means that it consists of two consecutive same numbers. So not only is this a very balanced number in that way, but even by looking at the way that the number one is drawn, when there's two next to each other, they actually look like the equal sign. So lots of balance here. And if you look at this illustration, I really love it because she's got the mirrored image of herself there. But it's not the exact same image as it is of her in the light. This is her shadow self. So the idea of incorporating your shadow self and acknowledging both sides of yourself as well as other people's actions and possibly inaction at the moment. So some other things that we see here are the sword, and that reminds us that all of our actions have double edge to them. If you do something that has positive energy and you're doing something out of the good of your heart for others, that can easily flow back to you. But at the same token, if you put negative energy out into the world, or better yet, exacerbate it, just let it continue flowing through you and transfer it onto others, then that energy is also able to come back to you. And this card speaks of consequences in that way, or rewards, depending on what kind of actions you or others have taken. So this week, there's definitely a sense of truth about what is actually going on under the surface. So perhaps we will find out about some injustices that have been happening under the surface, the level we haven't been able to see this week in you know, our lives, as well as the lives of people around us and people that we surround ourselves with, but also the things that we watch, the news and stuff like that. So another thing to beware of this week with the Justice card is to stay in a justice frame of mind yourself, and know that having an attitude of, well, if one person does something, it's not going to make a difference, isn't going to help. Have the attitude that you are a drop in the ocean, but if everyone makes a drop and pushes for justice when necessary in their everyday lives, then we all will be able to make an impact. It's going to be slow, definitely, but we will be able to make an impact. So let's look at ourselves. Let's take this mirror and look at ourselves and see where we have had some maybe hidden biases or judgments of ourselves, maybe others. Remember that judgments of others are always a reflection of things that you haven't yet accepted within yourself. So keep that in mind too. But let's also look at the people that we're surrounding ourselves with right now, because you are who you surround yourself with after all. And maybe it is possible that some negative thought patterns that are happening within you aren't actually yours. We pick up on energy. I know a lot of us are sensitive beings at the moment, and if you're an empath or highly sensitive, you can easily pick up on these patterns if you're not present and you're in a vulnerable place, and being around someone feels good, or you feel popular, or it feeds your ego somehow. Maybe now is the time to look at those relationships and start distancing yourselves. Oh, our coffee's going cold now. What else have I written here? So this card also, because it's ruled by Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus, there's a really, really compassionate, loving energy with this card. So whatever discoveries you make about yourself, about others, remember that compassion, and remember that we all, like, hurt people. So everyone who's done something, even though their reason doesn't justify it, there is a reason that they did it in their own mind, and it's not going to make sense to you, but that's okay. And use that same tactic with yourself. You might not respect the way that you did things before. You might not make that decision the person that you are today, but to hold that against yourself would be silly, because you do know that in the moment you justified it. And that's another thing to watch out for. So if you are seeing people and you can't quite read them in terms of are their intentions good or bad? And I don't like using those words, but are they good or bad? Well, see if they're using justification for their actions, because it tends to be that if it needs a justification, then the action wasn't just to begin with. So if you need to say, I did this to them because they did this to me and blah, 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 or, well, you know, they were doing this, so I did that. No. It does sound right in your mind, yes, and I'm sure in the moment it feels right. But when you look back on it, even just listening to those words. Does it? I'm not sure. Now this of course only applies to people, and don't allow this to be applied to your relationship to food or working out or anything like that. Just be kind to yourself in that regard, but do beware of other people's actions this week. The full moon on the weekend will stir up emotions for sure. It's going to be intense, so that will trigger some people. So again, just acknowledging the shadow parts of you, as well as the growth that has occurred and the positive attributes that you've developed because of these more shadowy, dark aspects of you. I love that. I'll give you one last look at her as we finish here. But yeah, I made a note here to just stay impartial to your actions and others' actions. Hold yourself accountable and others accountable, of course, because nothing will change and the world won't get the justice that it needs and change the justice system the way it needs to if we don't. So if there are places in daily conversation where you can stop and make people aware of how their talking is unacceptable, right? Then things will slowly start to shift. You'll start making little chips at, this big stone block that we're trying to get to tear down, essentially. And we're going to move on to our interpretive pull after that. And I love this because it definitely feels like where maybe I have been at over the last few weeks, but I didn't realize until maybe a few days ago. I think, maybe when Scorpio season rolled in, I started to realize that I had gotten further than maybe I was giving myself credit for. And that's kind of what this card is about. The Seven of Pentacles. And the Pentacles suit represents the element of earth. Number 7 represents spiritual awakening, bearing hardship with inner strength, and manifestation energy. The energy of earth energy is abundance energy. So these two go hand in hand. This is definitely a good time for us to sit back and be still, but also use our thoughts to manifest, because we've already done so much in taking action. If we think about the journey from the 1 of Pentacles all the way to the 10 of Pentacles, it is a longer one. The journey through Earth is a lot slower. It's a lot more efficient, or maybe not efficient, but sustainable. And to make something more sustainable, it does take a little bit longer to create a good foundation. And being the 7 of Pentacles, we're pretty close to the end of the journey. But having been such a long journey already, it might start whatever projects that you're in that maybe you're starting to wonder if they are blooming fruit. This card is here to say that you are, definitely. If we look at the illustration, you can see that from the perspective of this person, you see just the plants and the leaves that have grown so far and a few stems. But there's also this intricate and diverse root system that's growing down here. And it's already beginning to grow seeds for the next season. So if you think about this, and you think about our human psyche, we're always just looking at what we can see. It's really hard, especially with our own growth, because we've been conditioned to be hard on ourselves. It's really hard to see if we've made that growth or not if we don't see it in the numbers or in the physical form just yet. But that's not exactly how manifesting what you want works. There is a period of working, and then just a period of letting things grow to fruit. And all you can do then is just keep coming back each day, watering, seeing if you even need to water that day. Like, you just need to be motivated and dedicated to what you've been doing, continue what you've been doing. And if there is time to pause because there's not much else for you to do right now, then this can be a good opportunity to amplify that manifestation energy. And how you do that is through gratitude. So an idea that I have for this practice today is to write down a list of all of the people that have brought you, people or books or resources that have brought you, or inspiration that's brought you to where you are in this project, or maybe your entire life so far, that you're grateful for. And don't forget to put yourself on the list. Maybe you can even write about gratitude for yourself, the ways that you're grateful that you've dealt with this journey so far, maybe challenges you've overcome, or just changes of perception that have occurred. And remember that on this journey, especially one so long like this, what you plan for in the beginning doesn't always end up coming exactly to fruition the way you had pictured in the end. And that is perfectly fine. And sometimes you don't want that. Maybe now is a time for you to reflect on everything you've done so far and the direction that you're headed in. And maybe your intentions have changed, and so your vision has changed. And that's okay. Allow it to change with you, because you are changing as well. And don't be so stuck on the end outcome and how it looks. Just be persistent and keep doing what you're doing every day. Take it day by day. Ooh, and then one other thing I wanted to mention, just because we were on the topic of shadow work and shadow self, is the topic of fear. Because when you get close to manifesting your desires, if you have dealt with issues of insecurity in the past, this could even come from past lives, like who knows? But there's always going to be fear when you do get close to the finish line. And I've experienced that lately for sure. But the only way to overcome the fear is to just do the thing. If you end up doing the thing and it ends up not being for your best interest, there's usually a lesson that comes from it later on. But even if you're not happy with it, well, at least you've done it and you're practicing working through fear. So does it really hurt all that much to just do it anyway? So don't let fear stop you from continuing doing what you've committed yourself to, and continuing to express yourself and grow these seeds that you've desired and planted with love, because they are love, and these seeds were planted in your brain a long time ago to come to fruit, and the universe is excited for that to happen for you. So let's talk about the moon phases this week. Like I said, later this week we do have the blue moon in Taurus, and it's a full moon on Halloween, Samhain. And so there's going to be a lot of energy there. The new moon at the beginning of this cycle was in Libra, and Libra is ruled by Venus. Taurus, which the full moon is in on the weekend, I believe it's Friday it moves into it, is also ruled by Venus. So there is going to be a lot of Venusian support and loving, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. unconditional, loving energy here this weekend. We will need that. We'll need to be held in that capacity because there are still, I think it's 4 planets in retrograde at the moment. Mercury retrograde, Uranus, Mars, and Neptune, I believe. So there's still a lot of combating energy. And at the full moon, there's a lot of that energy anyway. But the whole week leading up to the full moon is a different phase. So I'll tell you a little bit about that as I've been sharing about the qualities of each moon phase on these lives. So we are in the waxing gibbous phase right now, and that's the phase we'll be in until the full moon on Friday. The waxing gibbous phase is a yin phase, so a feminine phase, more restful and passive. And during this phase, it's best for us to dive back into our intentions, into our inner selves, and refine and reflect the actions that we've been taking toward our intention this week or this month. So that's the energy we'll have until Friday. And then on Friday, the full moon kicks in. And the full moon is usually a burst of energy, but also some combative energy as well. It is a yang energy, so we revert from yin to yang and yin to yang. This is action-oriented energy. So if you want to start something around the full moon, it's a great time to do it. Possibly not for big investments, things like that, just with all the retrogrades, but you know what? Who cares about all that stuff? It's not a big deal. Do what you feel best about. But just beware of holding yourself in a capacity of compassion as well. And if you do need to separate yourself from other people, that's normal. Give yourself some time away. So the card that I pulled from the Monology Oracle card deck this week for our lunar cycle is the full moon in Sagittarius. Look at the bigger picture. And so another full moon energy represented here, which means that there will be maybe a little bit of inner conflict, possibly a little bit of outer conflict, but like I said, as long as you pull yourself away when necessary, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. Okay, so instead of looking at just one aspect of our life with our intention this month of resting and meditating, instead of just looking at one area where we can rest and take it easy, maybe we can take a look at the bigger picture of our lives and see where else we need to just surrender and pull back, and maybe take some time to go within instead of looking for signs without. Maybe we can apply that to our inner dialogue from moment to moment. I know with all of these combating energies, there's also a stellium in Capricorn right now, which is affecting me because it's in my first house. So there's a lot of transformation energy happening right now. But it can be tough. So maybe we just need to relax in all areas of our lives so that we do have the energy to apply that justice, wisdom, and power and discernment as well. Maybe we need to meditate on things that we haven't contemplated recently. Maybe something that you thought you were comfortable in, but looking at your inner state, maybe you're just not doing what makes you happy. Maybe you are reactive toward people that you love and normally get along with. Maybe something's off, and usually that represents a misalignment in something that we're doing or a place that we are. So let's look at everything and see where we can pull back and maybe take a rest and observe more than we react to. Just like our thoughts, we can observe our thoughts instead of allowing them to snowball and respond to them one after another. Excuse me. And another emphasis again on counting our blessings here, because this is the halfway point between the new moon and the balsamic moon, the end of the moon cycle. So it can feel like we're not getting anywhere and we haven't seen the product of our work just yet. But let's harness this full moon energy. It is an incredible energy we're going to have from Friday to Sunday. So do your gratitude practice. See where you can maybe pull back and conserve your energy, so that we can continue to move forward when that time comes, and do it in a way that brings balance and fairness to us and everyone else. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading today. And if you're catching this later on, or later in the week or weeks from now, I hope that it is relevant and resonant and applies to you. I am doing online readings now via video, Zoom call, or audio recordings. So check out my page for the prices. I also have my code of ethics and mission statement and my spreads that are available up there. So if you have some time, check that out. It's a really, really great way to dive into the shadow parts of yourself this Scorpio season. And I will be providing practices, journal prompts, meditations, depending on what your spread ends up looking like. So yeah, I hope to read for some of you there. If you are really enjoying these readings, I do have a place for you to donate in the link in bio as well. And that is so appreciated. That helps with anyone who can't pay in full for a reading, and it also helps pay for some education that I'm getting towards this as well. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week.